Amitabh Kant is a dynamic doer and excellent executor of some of the most challenging assignments which he's responsible for. And in lighter vein, we've seen him lots on TV recently explaining the very simple methods of transacting on mobile phones and inspiring everyone to do just that. Thank you, Mr. Amitabh Kant, for chairing this most eagerly awaited session. I'd now like to hand over to you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are very proud and privileged to have an extremely good panel with us today. We are very thankful to CEO Niti Aayog, Amitabh Kant, for taking his time out to come and be with us. To put things into context, today startups are one of the most powerful growth engines in an economy, creating value for customers, generating innovations and disruptive technologies, creating jobs, both directly and indirectly, and add to its vitality as a whole by opening up the entrepreneurial space for all entrants. India is ranked number 3rd in the global startup ecosystem and has seen a momentous rise in the past couple of years. Startups are also aiding small and medium business growth. As aggregators, they have empowered and worked with small-scale taxi drivers, kirana stores, budget hotels, second-hand shops, and so on. With increasing numbers, there is also a rising need for innovative financing for the startups. Government has taken some bold steps to ensure the sustainability of startups in India. A new action plan called Startup India, all of you have heard about it, has been launched, and Mr. Kant has been very closely associated with this project. Right now, the social enterprise ecosystem can be best described as a sector that shows promise. For it to become an industry, a number of things will have to fall into place, including government policy and regulation, better financial and legal frameworks, increase in talent pool, hand-holding in the pioneer gap stage, and a procurement policy that puts social enterprise first. It is suggested that impact investing in India is estimated at about $4 billion market in terms of cumulative investments between 2010 and 2016, and the sector is going at about 15% annually. India has the potential to emerge as the world's #1 emerging market for impact investing. The sector could grow about 6 to 8 times in the next decade, reaching about $6 to $8 billion in investments by 2025. So today, the way we will run this panel is that I would request the chair of the session, Mr. Kant, to give all of you a broad idea of where India is as far as startups are concerned, what is the thought process behind as to what the government is planning to do for startups, and why social impact is important, particularly those startups which are working in the social impact zone, how important they are to a country like India with over 1 billion people. After his intervention, I would request each of our esteemed panelists to give their take, depending on their experience, as to how do they see startups in India flourishing. What can they benchmark these against the startup ecosystems elsewhere? What are the existing problems in the startup zone in India, and what can be done to rectify some of these? So today, I would first start off with Mr. Kant, and then I would request each of our panelists to contribute to our entire discussion. Then we will have a very open question and answer session for about 30 minutes. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll just start off now.
Mr. Naidu, my distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, let me first of all welcome all of you to this very unique forum of discussion on innovation and startups in India. Many of you are from abroad, young people from abroad, and I particularly welcome you to be active participants in this India's growth story. India is growing at about 7.6% per annum. It's an oasis of growth in the midst of a very, very barren economic landscape across the world. But the challenge for India is really to grow at even higher rates of 9 to 10% for a period of 3 decades or more, to be able to lift a very young population above the poverty line. India is passing through a window of demographic transition which rarely happens in history. Almost 72% of our population is below the age of 35. And there are very few countries in the world, when they pass through such a light dependency burden, where they've not created wealth and they've not lifted people above the poverty line. So this is a huge, huge opportunity. And actually, to my mind, this was the biggest social and economic phenomena that's taken place across the world. That is, the population across Europe and America is getting older and older, and the population in India will keep getting younger and younger till 2040, and therefore, it's important that we reap this harness. Now, we've done several things, one of which is, if India is to grow at high rates, we've done several things, one of which is to make India very easy and simple to do business in. India has been a very complex, very complicated and very difficult place to do business in. We've built up rules, regulations, procedures, which we are dismantling in a big way. We've dismantled close to 1,100 laws. We've dismantled a lot of rules, regulation, procedures, make India easy and simple for people to create wealth. We've opened up our foreign direct investment regime in a very big way. We believe that India is living in a globalized world, and therefore India has to be a very integral part of the global supply chain. And our FDI has grown by almost 58%. At a point of time when globally FDI has fallen by 16%, we are the number 1 recipient of FDI across the world. We've beaten China. We believe that there's a huge energy, vibrancy, and dynamism in our young startup movement. And this needs to be captured in a very big way, simply because existing companies, and there are several studies to prove this, particularly one by Kaufman relating to Europe and America, which says that actually existing companies do not create jobs, but young companies create jobs. And therefore, if India is to grow with equity, if India is to grow with job creation, then we need to provide and impart a huge impetus to the startup movement. So almost a year back, we launched our startup policy and a startup action plan, which was launched by the Prime Minister of India at Vigyan Bhavan in New Delhi. We've done several things to make it very easy for startups. No compliances, virtually no compliances. You can register in almost a day. We've said that there will be no taxes on startup for a period of 3 years on any of the first 5 years that the startup wants. We are assisting them in terms of their intellectual property. We've focused on a lot of incubators. We are disrupting our education system by tinkering labs in schools. We are building up almost about 100 new incubation centers, and we are opening up the world to grand challenges relating to problems of India. The Western world has always innovated. It has innovated in terms of weapons, drones, driverless cars. But these are issues which confront the Western world. The challenges of India are very, very different. The challenges of India relate to making India sewage-free, enabling Indians to get water which is free from fluoride and arsenic water, ensuring that our farmers are able to enhance their production and productivity based on water and weather conditions on a real-time basis. And these are huge challenges for India. And if India is able to find solutions to its problems, we make a flyover in 3.5, 4 years, if we can do it in 30 days, and this is technically doable, then actually if India is able to find problems for its farmers, if India is able to find solutions to many of its problems, India will actually be finding solutions for the next 7 billion people of the world who will be moving from poverty to middle class. Therefore, the challenge for India is to find solution for its 1 billion people, but actually it will find solution for 7 billion people of the world. But there's a lot of energy and vibrancy. There's some very unique things happening in India and the startup world. When the Chennai flood happened some time back, the government of Tamil Nadu was finding it very difficult to provide relief and food to the people who were stranded. And there was a young startup called Social Corps, which is headed by Varun Banka and Prukal Sanka. And during this flood, they were able to, their app was able to assess damage, provide relief inventory, and help government agencies and NGOs to locate the distressed. And this is a unique startup which uses data on health, sanitation, and poverty to develop plans for rural village. In fact, in several villages of UP, it is helping the government to curb its high maternal mortality by getting data directly from delivery rooms and identify when things go wrong. So on a real-time basis, it is assisting people. There's a young girl called Pranshu Bhandari who started a startup called Culture Alley to teach Chinese and Japanese to people, but soon realized that the requirement in India was very different. And in 1 year's time, last year, she's taught 9 million Indians through its app called Hello English, 9 million Indians how to teach English, how to learn English, how to speak English. She's taught 9 million Indians. I mean, no government agency has been able to do this. It's amazing. Similarly, if you look at the agriculture sector, Sitanshu Seth and Shardul Seth, they launched AgroStar. And AgroStar is very unique because they created a platform for farmers to procure seeds, crop nutrients, even tractors, and all at their doorsteps. And AgroStar is just in a matter of 2 years has signed up about 400,000 farmers for providing quality and reliable inputs. And it's an amazing performance by a young startup. So if you look at the field of health, it's amazing what is happening in the field of health in India. And if you were to look at a startup called Consio Medical, right out of here, and much of this ecosystem actually is being built around Bangalore and Hyderabad. And Consio Medical developed a very, I didn't realize that there's so many people in the world who were impacted by this problem of about 100 million people impacted by problems of stool management. And Consio Medical actually developed a very unique disruptive technology that will, it's developed a device called Cora that integrates a hygienic applicator and is able to do stool management of people. And actually 1,600 million people in the world and 16 million people in India are impacted by this. And today, this adapter is actually used by not merely All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Apollo, Fortis, but across hospitals across the world. And so in the field of health, there's something unique. If you look at Mitra Biotech, this actually started as a startup in Stanford and later went to Silicon Valley, but soon realized that its future doesn't lie in Silicon Valley, but it lies in India. And therefore, Mitra Biotech relocated from Silicon Valley into Bangalore, and it develops solutions for personalized cancer care. It's patented a technology platform called CanScript, which helps hospitals and doctors to figure the right combination and sequence of drugs to be administered to cancer patients. So CanScript actually analyzes biopsy samples and arrives at a very specific combination of drugs for treatment to be given by patients, and you can do your treatment yourself using CanScript. So it's a very, very unique thing which one AIMS doctor and someone who's, Malika Arjun Sundaram, who taught in the University of Pennsylvania, where the AIMS doctor did this. But actually in many of our campuses and many of our IIT Chennai, IIT Mumbai, if you look at it, these have all become institutes of great change. And if you were to look at what's happening on our campuses, there's tremendous things happening. And there's a factory of smart scooters which has just started in Bangalore called S340. This is a company called Ather Energy, started by two students along with their professor at IIT Chennai, Tarun Mehta and Swapnil Jain of IIT Chennai. And this is a unique scooter which is the smart scooter of the world of the future, and this can probably be the Tesla of the scooter world in future. And anybody riding on it, you can have it gives you the profile of the person who's driving it and analyzes their riding habits as you drive and tells them how to improve. So it's on a real-time basis. It promises very smart commuting, better ride experience, less pollution, and cost efficiency. And I don't know how many of you have heard of or been through InShots. InShots was actually, I don't read newspapers anymore, and I just, on my Twitter, I look at InShots. And InShots actually now is all facts, no opinion, in just about 60 or fewer words, gives you the whole story of what's happening around you. And it has had about 5 million downloads and about 1 billion monthly page views. And this has all been done by dropouts. Both of them, both the founders, one is a dropout from IIT Delhi, and they believe that, my belief is that InShots will really disrupt all the leading newspapers of India in short time. But exciting things are happening in the world of women, and one of the key things in India is that if India is to grow at those rates which we are talking about, 9 to 10%, it's not possible for India to do this without gender parity, because India is the only country in the world where women contribute only 17% to our GDP as compared to about average of around 40%. Even Latin America, African countries, women's contribution to GDP is about close to 34-35%. And therefore, women, as a conscious policy, we need to push and enable women to become better entrepreneurs. And unless that doesn't happen and the contribution of women doesn't rise, it'll be very difficult for India to become a $10 trillion economy. And therefore, women's role is critical. And in the world of startups, women are doing, I gave you the story of Pranshu Bhandari, who taught 9 million Indians how to speak English. But if you look at Shanti Mohan, who's the co-founder of Let's Venture here. And she's as an amazing women entrepreneur, amazing serial entrepreneur. So she's had over 1,800 investors from more than 25 countries, investing in almost 11,000 startups. I mean, it's an amazing thing, this Let's Venture started by Shanti Mohan, putting together about 1,800 investors from across the world, and she's helped investors discover the hottest startups in India. It's an open platform, totally open platform, which has helped startups get access to experienced investors from across the world. But I think amazing work done by women entrepreneurs. I mean, look at Meena Ganesh. She's been the co-founder and CEO of Portia. Portia is one of the most well-established health startups of India, and it has about close to about almost 6,000 employees, operates in 20 cities in India, and it offers a range of geriatric, chronic, and post-operative care services to patients, all at their home. So you can just get in touch with Portia, and any problem that you have, it'll provide you assistance. So, across social sectors, across health, across agriculture, across health, and such a huge disruption is taking place in India. And similarly, I gave you example of education, I gave you example of health and agriculture, but a huge disruption is actually taking place in education. India has been able to provide access for its entire population, access of education, but the quality of education has really suffered. So while we have succeeded in giving access, we're finding it very difficult for a class 5 student is not able to read his mother tongue of class 2, or a class 5 student is not able to do addition, subtraction, and once he's left behind, he finds it very difficult to keep pace. And therefore, you need additionality of education for someone who's been left behind. And the only way you can do it, the only way India can technology leapfrog across the world is by using technology to leapfrog. And therefore, in the world of education, we are seeing a huge, huge disruption taking place through technology, whether it's, Impartus, which is a video-based learning platform, which has enabled education institutions to edit and distribute content, whether it is Vedantu, which is a one-to-one live online tutoring platform, whether it's Prozo, which provides books distributed in electronic content across. We are seeing a huge disruption taking place. But one of the biggest changes that's happening in India right now is that India is the only country with 1 billion mobile. India is the only country with 1 billion biometrics. There's no country in the world which has 1 billion biometrics. And India was a country which used to use 85% cash, 95% of personalized consumption expenditure used to take place from cash. And one of our big attempts as a consequence of demonetization is to push for digital payment, because only 2 to 2.5% Indians pay taxes. So India needs to move from a non-formal to a formal economy. India can't be it's impossible for India to become a $10 trillion economy, which all young people like you want India to become a $10 trillion economy, if, India's $2 trillion is a formal economy and another $1 trillion is an informal black economy. It's not possible for India to grow. So you need to convert the non-formal economy into a formal economy, and that's what the attempt is. But what we are pushing now is digital payments in a very big way, and we are seeing a huge disruption through several innovative measures. India's created a back end in terms of biometric, which will enable India. One of the things you must try while you are in India is the new BMAP. And what the BMAP does is, it's got a back end which is interoperable, linking all the banks, and you can do a transaction with a bank. You just link your mobile with your bank account, and you can transfer your money from one bank account from person to person or person to merchants, and you just enter and boom, it goes. So UPI, that's for the 350 million people who have smartphones, but those who don't, the GSM phone, you can use *99# USSD, and again, Beam enables you to transfer payments from rural areas where there is no internet. GSM phones, you can transfer it. But for those who do not have either GSM and those who do not have smartphones, what do? So one of the things which India has done uniquely, which you will see happening in districts of Jharkhand, or if you go to Krishna and West Godavari district, is to use the app-enabled, the Aadhaar-enabled payment system, where you go to a ration shop and the ration shop dealer is also the banking correspondent. So you take ration, you just feed your Aadhaar number, and you just use your thumb. And you just use your thumb and tick mark your bank name. So if my bank is Central Bank, I just tick mark it, and straight away it takes me to my bank account. You don't need to remember even your bank account. And you can do a debit credit, and in flash of exactly 30 seconds, you can do a transaction. So India is in the midst of huge, huge disruption in the world of both financial technology in terms of social innovation, huge, huge innovation. And this disruption will enable India to leapfrog. And by 2020, my view is that in the next 2.5 years, India will make all debit card, all credit cards, all ATM machines, all POS machines totally irrelevant. They will all become redundant in India, and India will make this big quantum jump because every Indian will be doing his transaction just using his thumb. In 30-second flat, we'll all be doing our transaction using our thumb. And the poorest people, many people say that what happens to people in rural areas, and my experience of after visiting Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh is that people living in rural areas, their ability to utilize technology to leapfrog is much quicker, much faster than literate people living in urban cities. And therefore, I am a great optimist, I'm a great believer in India that in the areas of social innovation, in the areas of financial technology, is the young Indian who are disrupting the world of India today, will enable India to leapfrog and take it to a $10 trillion economy. It's important to understand this. What is the difference if India grows at 7%? And what is the difference if India goes at 10%? If India's per capita income is $1,532 US, if India continues to grow at 7% by 2032, we'll be able to take the per capita income to about close to $4,000 US. But if India grows at 10%, by 2032, India will be a $10 trillion economy, but our per capita income will be close to $7,000 US. So the young people of India must have the hunger, must have the ambition, and must have the passion to drive India through innovation, through startups, and disrupt India in a manner which India has never seen before in its history. And I think the panelists here will dwell on some of these unique things which are happening in India right now. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much. I think I would now start with our panelists. Each one would get about 5 to 6 minutes of intervention. I'll start with Professor Anil Gupta. If you could please give us your comments as to what is happening in the startup zone, and do you think the interventions made by the government have been beneficial, or is there something more that could be done? Thanks.
First of all, I must compliment Ministry of External Affairs for creating a wonderful platform to match the aspirations of resident young social entrepreneurs and the non-resident stakeholders who would like to participate in this process of nation building by actively engaging with the young social entrepreneurs. So I think this is a wonderful platform, and I must compliment them for that. I must also begin with a contest that Gandhiji had started. It was announced on 24th July 1929. And look at the wisdom of that old man, how much ahead of the time he was. He announced a prize of 7,700 pounds, which was equivalent to 1 lakh rupees at that time, maybe 10 crore worth of prize today, for redesigning a spinning wheel so that the women do not have drudgery, it can be moved easily. So to cut short, long story short, Amba Charkha was one of the result of that crowdsourced idea. So Gandhiji in India was a pioneer in crowdsourcing idea, and the current government is taking it to the next level, where it is engaging with the masses to seek ideas almost in every sector. Railways announced recently 4 challenges for which they have announced prizes. Of course, I must say, however, that big prize is still to be there, and I'm sure Amitabh will make it happen when there will be awards of 10 crores, 15 crores, 1 crore for big challenges of our society. And there I would say the NRGs must join hands, because you can then take up a cause and announce a big challenge award jointly with the Niti Aayog or other civil society organizations or institutions in the country, and bring out the best that is available in the country in formal and informal sector. The second thing that I must say, that these challenges will have to be announced in each district. There are local challenges. We were having a Shodh Yatra through Honeybee Network in Dhimaji in Assam. Now the water there has very high iron content. The existing water filter companies will not design a new water filter for that region. Incidentally, Dhimaji is the district where Ulfa was born. So please appreciate that if a lot of social problems remain unaddressed, it is an invitation to enemy. We will be inviting disturbances. So it's very urgent that we engage with such causes which market and sometimes even the state are not able to address. That space that is left blank, that's left vacant, has to be filled up with social enterprises. And that is where this platform provides an opportunity for us to now think deeply as to which challenges in which districts will we like to identify. All of us come from some region. You can adopt an idea in your region, doesn't matter. And Government of India is going to come out with a very invigorated policy on this subject, where in each district there will be innovation funds and a lot of challenges will be issued. How do we take our incubation movement to the next level? I have been a great supporter because in the National Innovation Foundation we started this. In Gyan, which was set up in 1997 with Gujarat government, we started this. It's called in situ incubation. Already cities are bursting at seams with the population and pressure of infrastructure. We need to create facilities in the, say, C-grade towns, in the villages, for young people to set up their own enterprises. Through in situ incubation, in situ mentoring. That means we don't want to disrupt the connection between grandparents and grandchildren. We don't want a society where grandpeople will be kept in old age houses. We want a compassion. That's not our culture. In our culture, young people are supposed to take care of their elders. But at the same time, they have aspirations. And today with ICT, as Amitabh mentioned, today we can roll out every facility practically at the doorstep. Whether it is financing, whether it is incubation, whether it is connection to the local workshops. Railways, in the last budget, thanks to the effort that some of us made and, they fructified, 400 workshops of railways are available, are open to the innovators, both within and outside, to the grassroots innovators. So railways have opened, they have covered 60% country, their workshop will be available to the startups, will be able to, the hard technology entrepreneurs can use their workshop, they have material, they have very experienced people. Running railway in this country is not a small job. So how do we bring that synergy between existing infrastructure of ITIs, polytechnics, engineering colleges, and the young hard technology startups? We should also identify opportunities where new instruments will have to be generated. For instance, we have ATG, under which at one time government thought that donations to the civil society will get 50% exemption. Can we create, Amitabh, a new instrument where young people, where the new wealthy people can donate a small part of their income to a startup and get exemption for that, so that we mobilize large number of people to invest in this journey. At early stage, the recognized funds, be it the impact fund or venture fund, don't invest. They invest too late. We need early stage. We have 1 million students of engineering college and biotechnology college and in various technical disciplines in this country passing out every year. 1% of them, 10,000 of them will have ideas worthy of great promise. We have a platform called techpedia.in, which has 200,000 ideas by 550,000 students. Surely there are ideas. But at early stage, when you're just thinking about your vision, investment is very difficult to come by. And at that stage, some of you sitting here should consider 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 5 lakh, doesn't matter. Let it be a sport. Let investment in startup become a sport. Let people enjoy talking about, look, I invested this. Doesn't matter if it didn't work out, but I enjoy talking to the young fellow with passion and energy in trying to take his or her idea forward. I think let us start enjoying this process of engaging with young people who have dreams in their eyes and who want to change this world very soon, very fast. India is one of the youngest countries, and at this moment, as Amitabh told you, there is a growth story that is happening, but this growth must be distributed so that the benefits of the growth go to every section of our society. And for distributed growth, we need in situ incubation model that we very much wish. We also need to understand that there are a lot of innovations that National Innovation Foundation has found. More than 200,000 ideas from 550 districts. Many of them have not gone to very large scale, completely valid, because long tail of innovation implies that not every innovation will diffuse. Innovation which will diffuse to 100, 200, 500, 1,000, 10,000 people have a merit for an inclusive society, for a diversified society. How do we create an environment where innovation which will not catch up too much scale also become attractive for investors, for mentors? Because these are niche-specific needs. A small region of a northeast may have a small crop, small problem, and that needs to be solved there. So how do we engage that? That's another challenge that we need to bring out. Lastly, let me say that we, in 97 when we created a micro-venture fund, we realized that a lot of young people and rural innovators under single signature, when given money, pay back. It is not microfinance, it is micro-venture finance. We need a movement, we need a transition in the financing movement. Microfinance is for products and services for which market exists. Micro-venture finance is for products and services for which market does not yet exist. I'm very happy that Niti Aayog recently is setting up large number of incubators. They have set up tinkering lab in small schools and ashram shalas in Kakinada and wherever. Large hinterland, very distributed. I think this is a great effort. How can these places become hub for innovation is something that we need to plan for. Let me conclude by saying that this panel has many experienced people from all parts of the country, all sectors of economy. And I'm very hopeful that we will very soon have in Ministry of Economic Affairs, not just economic, but also innovation diplomacy, because we need to project the best of our country to the countries abroad, developing countries particularly, Africa, Latin America, Southeast Asia, wherever. And we need to spot talent and nurture them in India. If people could go to Silicon Valley because they got support there, let them come to India for being supported here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I would now request Mr. Venkatesh Shukla, with his experience as a venture capitalist and also from somebody from Silicon Valley, to give his comments. Thanks.
Mr. Naidu, thank you for inviting me to this panel. And it's a privilege to be on the panel with Mr. Kant. A lot of respect for him. So I'll give you my Silicon Valley perspective. Silicon Valley attracts problem solvers from all over the world. And it has too much capital and too many problem solvers and not enough big problems to solve. And sometimes, and because of that, a lot of capital and a lot of really smart people work on things that are, trivial. So I'll give you an example, the most extreme example of that. Twitter is 140 character limit. One company came up, and really smart people from Google and stuff, they came up with this idea that 140 characters is too many. All that you need is, sometimes you need just 2 characters. And those 2 characters are YO, Y-O. And they actually raised $10 million. And their whole tagline was, sometimes all that you want to say is yo. Luckily, or predictably, that company didn't go anywhere. So, but in India, we have a different problem. In India, we have millions of problems and not enough problem solvers. And it's not for lack of talent. It's really the lack of that culture, the risk-taking culture, and the innovation ecosystem that goes with it to reinforce that culture. So what has diaspora from Silicon Valley has done about it? 2 things. One is, historically, we've been engaged with traditional venture capital. 90% of venture capital are, Indians from Silicon Valley. So that's one way of engaging and doing this thing. The second way of engaging has been on specific causes, people that feel strongly about a particular cause. So I've been involved with, I started an organization called Foundation for Excellence about 22 years ago. We give scholarships to extremely talented kids who manage to get admission to a good engineering college or a middle college, but are too poor to afford it. So about 19,000 kids and enabled them to become engineers and doctors. This is just one story. There are a number of these stories that people from Silicon Valley have done, picked up a cause and supported it in India. The most gratifying development lately has been that we used to raise money in Silicon Valley and some money in India. Lately, in last 2 years, we have raised more money in India than we do in Silicon Valley now. So it's a tipping point has been reached in India where people who have recently come into money, the professionals, the finance people, the entrepreneurs, they have gotten involved in giving or gotten involved, you see, in pushing for causes, not just giving to the temple, not just giving it to the community, but getting involved, you see, with causes. And that's one of the most satisfying, one of the most gratifying development that I've seen in last 2-3 years in India. And this trend is accelerating. So it bodes extremely well. So another thing that bodes extremely well is this government's focus on startups and innovation. I wish the first Prime Minister of India had focused on entrepreneurship and bet on entrepreneurs rather than on the commanding heights of the economy. But it's never too late, and we are incredibly optimistic that with this government's push towards startup and innovation would change the mindset and change the culture. It's already happening, you see. It's already happening, you see, all over the place. So that thing is happening. Some of the things that government has done, which has been very, very good for startup things, which are applicable to social sphere also. And I'm addressing myself to Mr. Kant here. He was architect of this idea of setting up a 10,000 crore fund of funds that gives matching funds to venture capital in India. 90% of the capital used to come from outside, and this is a way to change that dynamic and get people, local money to start investing in local startups. And that, just think about it, if they give only 20% matching, now you're looking at 50,000 crores going into startups. It will have massive, massive multiplier effect. So my suggestion would be that government set up a similar thing, which is, it doesn't have to be as big, 100 crore, 200 crore kind of a fund, but it goes to social impact funds. And now there are at least 8 or 10 social impact funds operating in India. The difference between a regular, just an NGO and a social impact kind of investment is that you invest in things that make a positive social impact, but you make money on it. It's very important to make money because in the long run, that is what is sustainable. So, and some of that thing has already started. So my suggestion to the government, would be to set up a smaller fund of funds, but to encourage, formation of social impact-oriented funds. This would have a similar multiplier effect, and you don't need as much money. So that's one suggestion. The second suggestion I have is, and I think government is already doing in some areas, challenge grants. So give a challenge grant. If there is a, if there is a way, set up, 1 lakh rupees, 5 lakh rupees kind of a challenge award. That first person who comes up, with, water quality or milk quality or something, a way to test that very, very inexpensively. Someone comes with that, gets that. People will do that because those is a self-selection. People who relate to these kind of causes would come up. And second, people want recognition. So I think this is another massive multiplier effect on the society. So those are my two things, and I think it's very heartening that for a session like this, there is a house full. So please give yourself a round of applause for this.
Thank you, Mr. Shukla. I would now ask Prasad Khaipa to come up with his intervention. We all like to speak, but restriction.
Raise your hands. Okay, excellent. How many of you want to do that in the future? That's good. That's really encouraging, first of all. How many of you are part of the government who support some of these kinds of activities and who are in the audience? Excellent. So we have, for what is needed to create a startup ecosystem, you need people who want to create something. You need people who support those kinds of things, and people who will create policies and create ecosystem that will do it. And the fourth one, and also extremely important, is people who fund. How many of you have actually given loans or have invested or have supported somebody with startup ideas? That's good. That's very good. Now, next step is, maybe after you finish this seminar and keep looking for opportunities, maybe while you are here also, to see what are the kinds of things, whether in a micro way or a microwave you can do it. Let me ask a couple more questions. How many are you from outside the country, outside India? You are living outside. Oh, that's a large number. That's some things that you are doing in your country that works with other people, because conferences like this are fantastic in finding co-founders, co-entrepreneurs, and start something together across the countries and across the sectors. That is something that I would highly encourage. Living in Silicon Valley for past 35 years and spending 3 months a year in India for past 27 years, I learned a few things that are very, very useful in both creating startups and making innovations work. One of them is there are many, many people who have great ideas. India is probably the leader in coming up with ideas. We may be billion plus people, but we have 5 billion ideas. Is that true? Yeah? So we have a lot of ideas. The problem is we don't listen to each other's ideas. That's a whole different matter, but we have ideas. But the key is every idea which you think is great doesn't necessarily make it into a startup. You need to recognize the ideas have to become meaningful concepts for which there are either known customers or unknown customers. Especially if you are talking about a social ventures and social investment, you need to identify where there are big problems. Venk identified something interesting. Similarly, in Silicon Valley, there is a university which talk about identifying a problem that billion people have got. And if you can find solutions for those problems, you will not have much of a issue either in raising funds or in making the startup successful. Once you have ideas, then you need design. Are those ideas and concepts designed in a way those ideas can be scaled, can be created into next step? If you have not done that, then you can be very frustrated that nobody cares about your ideas. But entrepreneurship and startup is how to take that idea into an actionable design so that people can benefit. So that's the second gap. Third gap is even if you have a great design, you need to have a prototype. Sometimes in Silicon Valley, we call it as a PowerPoint, companies. There are lots of companies which have got nothing but 10 PowerPoint slides and they want to get various things going. That's the first stage. You need to have some prototype, especially in the social sector. If you have something that you can show, that's the next step. So first gap is idea gap. Second is design of the idea in a workable way. Third is a prototype that actually shows that it is possible. And then the fourth one is you need to create a pilot project. If some of you are looking at it, where is it that you can test that prototype and show some real world results? Then the next one is how do you market it in such a way that it can be scaled up? Then it's the question of taking it to next level of services and funding it to everything else. For example, government had facilitated a little while ago when telephone connections were very, very hard. They supported the telephone booths, ISD booths and mobile phones. For example, that allowed us to leapfrog even countries like United States so that we can come to the latest technology. So government can facilitate through policies and support systems so that the infrastructure issues can be overtaken. So we may need to look at it and say, what kind of infrastructure, what kind of past is inhibiting our ability to do it, and are there some solutions that can leapfrog those kinds of issues? For example, web reservations. When railway tickets and bus tickets could be bought on the web, suddenly it brought transparency, it reduced the corruption in the railway system. So everybody doesn't need to worry about how to pay money to the ticket collector so that they can get the ticket. Suddenly, rural population, everybody else can get tickets. See, that's another interesting innovation. None of them are sexy. None of them are whiz-bang technologies. But these are the ones that make social life and social sector to work a lot better. Similarly, Arvind Eye Care. We have the largest eye care system in the world, and it is done at 100th or 1/10 the cost of variety of things that are happening. India is a leader in making innovations like Narayana Hrudayalaya, Arvind Eye Hospital, 108, all of these are possible. First few of them happened because of the government intervention and policy changes. Some other things have happened because people like you got the ideas, got the motivation, and decided you want to do something else about it. Some examples of the current ones I can think of, like Youth for Jobs. Because when Modi ji talks about reskilling, if we can think about some way to democratic dividend from the youth population to come in, the mantra is you need to take advantage of the handicapped people, create value for the business, and create some kind of a support system for the government. If you can do that and make the differently abled people not just have the mouths to feed, but no hands to earn the money, Youth for Jobs is something that is trying to create, I think it has already provided jobs for over 10,000 people. See, that's a social venture, that kind of work that can be supported. Akshaya Patra, like for example here, Desh Pandey's foundation is going to talk about. Similarly, there is a wonderful stuff that provides midday meals to a large number of school students. You are talking about 1.5 school children being fed. And now they are taking it globally and they are going to scale it up. That's a fantastic opportunity and something else that is happening. You might want to check out them in the exhibition hall. Similarly, there are lots of things that are successful. What made them successful? One is they created hybrid models. Don't just go create an NGO. NGO is not necessarily a startup. NGO is a great first step, but you will always be going around with a begging bowl saying that I have a great idea, how come government doesn't support it, how come nobody supports it? That is not a viable way in which we can create a startup world. Create a hybrid model where your NGO can create value for somebody else so that there is an ecosystem. There are excellent examples. Industry is a non-profit group that trains artisans, or Embrace, it talks about providing preemie babies some opportunities to do something else. So it is in our hands, whether we are abroad, whether we are here, the problems are going to be there everywhere. We need to look at how can we take the personal interest, identify in the area where we have passion, some kind of an opportunity to make a difference, and then we can look at how to go across the innovation value chain. The innovation value chain is idea innovation, design innovation, prototype innovation, manufacturing, marketing, sales, and support. Please look at all of them and identify and make sure at least 3 or 4 of these have got well connected, well supported. And my recommendation is you might want to look at other things which are already there in your neighborhood or what you come across, identify the gap. Which of these elements innovation is missing, provide it for them, support them, and figure out a way in which you can actually nurture innovation, nurture mentorship, and provide opportunities for startups to become extraordinarily successful in India. India is very entrepreneurial. It might not have called it startup before, but I have a feeling with the government support and each one of us figuring out wherever we come from, how do we do that knowledge exchange with other people to make the social sector much better? I have a feeling we will be left with remarkable, not only the dividend of the generation, but also the financial dividend that will come up. Those are some ideas that I have. And if you are interested later, we can talk about how you can make a difference in wherever you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kaipa. I would now request Naveen Jha from Deshpande Foundation to intervene. Thanks.
Thank you. I think my colleagues have covered a lot of ground, so I'll take a different ground. So we have a Silicon Valley people. We have people from Delhi, Ahmedabad, Boston, Cambridge. I'm coming from the place called Hubli, which is a 300 kilometer away from the Bangalore. What does it mean, Hubli? So 2007 in Boston, I was there with probably several of you may be knowing Dr. Deshpande. We said, yeah, we are hearing Silicon Valley and Bangalore is going to be emerging Silicon Valley. So what we do for social innovation. And then, as you know, this is the time for headlines. So we can say, can we come up with the Silicon Valley for the social innovation? And that's where the Hubli pop up. And we started, it's like a typical third tier, second tier city with the rural. And couple of information, we have been working for 10 years. Couple of information I'll give you. My colleague mentioned Akshay Patra. So Hubli has a world largest kitchen. World largest kitchen. Anyone can guess how much food they cook? How many people? In 4 hours, they can cook 200,000 meals. 4 hours. If we run 2 shifts, we'll cross the 4 to 5 lakh meals we can cook it. And we really want to create these kind of India's biggest, world biggest, largest, whatever it is. And we want, within a 6 months, someone change those taglines. Someone else become India's biggest. So that's how India is going to grow. And a lot of earlier colleagues said, there are a lot of opportunity. We have a biggest population which is tech enabled. And also we are the house of world most problems. So it's an excellent secret sauce for the entrepreneurship. And with that same mandate, we started in Hubli, and now we have in Telangana and Eastern UP, the center, how we can create a more entrepreneurial mindset. The people, either they want to start their own or they will become a part of some venture. Both are important. But how you have innovation and the big part of execution capabilities. And as Venkatesh said, Venkat, the importance of problem solver. We all know what are the problem, but at the same time you need a problem solvers. And if people take it in their own hand, things can be done. And these are all solvable problems. We are not talking something which is kind of unsolved. And if you come into Hubli, we are building, probably it will be done, India's biggest skill development center. And similarly, incubation center. So those kind of things is not now India doesn't need to wait for another 50 years. So still we have a lot of new wealth is getting created in the country. And a lot of people would like to participate in a lot of way. And I say that because Amitabh is here, so like I said, there are a lot of charity dollar and charity rupees are available in outside India for India and inside India for India. And if we have a proper mechanism, like we always suffer from FCRA. We want to support a lot of people, but we kind of get hand tied up because most of our money is coming from US or Europe. So if we can simplify some of the processes, I think we can further fuel the whole social innovation story, what is going on in India. And I can take you through journey. Like basically 10 years before we started, we say several things coming in the picture. We say that failure is okay with us. We don't mind failure, but we always say fail small, fail fast. And by that we have if you come Hubli, I love to invite you if you want to come. We have more than 200 non-profit startups, which is very hard to listen. Most of the people go for profit and at the max social entrepreneurship, but they don't go totally non-profit format. And Akshay Patra, I was mentioning the Anil also, every year, like they are feeding around 1.6 million kids in 12,000 government schools. We have Agastya Science Education, which is kind of world largest science education program. So these kind of social innovations are happening in the bottom of the pyramid. And a lot of change makers are making. So there are tons of story. I'm just picking one and two, especially in a totally non-profit format I'm speaking here. And so a lot of people are working, they are dedicated, and being so many young population, they are all kind of very entrepreneurial to work in those dimensions. If we can, and for us, basically, for-profit, non-profit doesn't make too much difference because you need a similar entrepreneurial thought process, execution capabilities, and all the best practices and good practices of business to follow in the compassionate world of non-profit. So if we can combine the compassion of the non-profit and the good business practices together, we can really create a scalable, which is India need, because anything, if you talk in India, it's always in millions. If you're doing in 100,000, no one cares. So how we can create those solutions which can really impact the millions and then build a solution and incorporate a lot of other things. In last 10 years, we were able to demonstrate like place like Hubli, which can be like Hubli kind of. We have more than 400 places in India. And so there's an immense opportunity to participate in whatever way, as earlier speakers say, either you can mentor, you can invest, you can connect with them. And right now that movement is happening. All we are kind of, I'm like last 10 years in Hubli. I'm not from Karnataka, but I'm in Hubli, and kind of I can get from Telangana, in UP, other places. Things are simmering very, very aggressively. And people are kind of have a lot of new ideas. They would like to build the things, and they would like to part of this bigger story, which is getting message at the central level very aggressively. Either, of course, Amitabh has mentioned all the schemes, startup, stand-up, skill, and so on and so forth. So we have a lot of potential capabilities to build it with a proper kind of policy framework, etc. But is an excellent opportunity for us to harness the new wealth is getting created in India itself. Like Bangalore, Hyderabad, and a lot of these cities are kind of paving the way towards that. So we would like to engage a lot of people who can go hinterland, as Anil has mentioned. Each district has such opportunity to create a scalable solution which can really impact, whatever way you measure impact, doesn't matter. But it has a kind of either, pick any sector, doesn't matter. We don't need to fight whether maths is good or science is good, all are good. Whether sanitation is better option or English is better option, they all have an opportunity to create a long-lasting impact. It's just that we have to be more entrepreneurial to take the things and move forward. By that note, I would like to say that one thing, last thing, from Hubli, and we try to change the word of Hubli from hub of learning innovation. Thank you.
Thank you, Naveen. I would now request Professor Mudera from Boston to give his intervention. Thanks.
First of all, I want to thank the organizers for bringing this forum together and inviting me. It's a last-minute invitation. It's my pleasure. Since I am from academics, I don't have industrial experience, I can talk about that part of it. So we all know that a country is built successfully not in one day, not in 1 year. It takes decades, centuries. That means we have to build a future. It's not just today or tomorrow. So how do you build a future? You have to start at a young age. That's what my goal is. My idea is that, or my suggestion is that we should start very young age. For example, you should start by the middle school level. How to have the students train and teach in an innovative way, or bring up leadership in them, or bold ways to actually experience something or experiment something. This is what they have to bring out. So this can be done through projects in schools. You can have competitions, you can have little workshops, and these are kind of things. So that means we can have something like a science fair or a STEM fair where they bring out these students of various talents together, and they can express and then compete with each other. They can come up with more creative ideas, more creative ways. This is one place where actually government can step forward in the education level. So you can have a separate course or separate requirement in all the schools to bring out these young people to build the future of the country. Another thing I can think about is regional innovation or incubation centers. That could be pretty effective. You can have a team of people who are willing to look at some of the ideas students or kids have. Just to give an example, a couple of days ago, one young kid, about 14 years old, he came to me. He wanted to find out, get my ideas and advice, how to manufacture something which he invented. He invented an eyedropper. He said the currently available eyedropper costs about 100 times more than what he is able to do it. So he wanted me to know. But since I am from academics, now I had to connect him with somebody else. For example, Dr. Prasad Kaipa, we talked about it. He has set forward some way we can actually push him to the next level. So this is the kind of thing. Those who have ideas, those who have resources, you can connect to the others where they can have development of their simple ideas. Okay? So other place is, since I'm from MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, I can sort of give you a few pointers where they are able to do this kind of innovation very, very successfully. For instance, almost 1 in every 6 graduates start an industry in MIT. So that's the reason the institute is very, very successful. They really built the whole country in a strong way. For example, about 2,000 companies are named after MIT graduates. So you can see that how they do it. So there's a lot of encouragement in MIT for entrepreneurship. There are a lot of workshops. In fact, they even have incubation funds for these people. So, for example, recently, about a month ago, they started a center called Engine. So this is one of the places where you can develop something which you have thought about, or you want to do a prototype which has long-term possibilities of being successful, probably 10 years, 20 years. It's not 1 or 2 years. So this kind of thing would also help in the country. That means if the government can set up some centers such as this, with for example, basic sciences is not going to produce profit in 2 years. It takes a long time. For example, any kind of biotechnology, bioscience, it takes a long time to develop these. So these are some other places. Finally, what I'm trying to say is, you should start at a young age. You should teach them in schools. You should teach them to be bold, how to think innovatively. For example, we create this STEM fair every year. Since last 6 years, we have been doing it in a rural area in Coorg. So where we found that the kids are extremely brilliant. We give them, ask them to build a model. We give them just basic things which are around in the local area. Just give them that and give them a challenging thing to build in 2 hours. First 2 hours, we don't see anything. Second hour, you'll be completely amazed how much they are able to create. So this kind of things should be a lot more available, a lot more encouraged. This is what I'm trying to say. So with that thing, I'm thinking that to build the country, we need to build the young. So that means the companies which are involved, which are profitable, they can come up with some ways of actually supporting such structures locally. So that will be big help along with the government support. So with that, I thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. Now, our last panelist of the day, it's Arsh Shadilbagi. He's a young student. At the same time, he's also an innovator and an entrepreneur. He's a brand ambassador of India STEM Foundation, and we would like the audience to hear a young innovator and what he thinks of the startup scene in the country and how do youngsters can contribute to the entire ecosystem. Thanks.
Thanks for having me. Talking about India, we have one of the largest and the biggest digital infrastructures. We sell about 25 million smartphones every quarter. We're the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. And when you talk about startups, India has around 20,000 startups, out of which only 2% happen to be social enterprises. So this comes out to a bigger question that why is there such a small number of social enterprises? When you look at a smaller scale, when you go deep down, you'll see that 20% of the startups are either in Mumbai, Bangalore, or Delhi. And this brings a very important point of India's diversity. Since India is such a diverse place, every city has a different problem to be solved. And we talk about social innovation, we're essentially talking about the cities on the margins, the small cities where the startup culture has not spread yet, where people don't know about digitization. So one of the first and the most key things to talk about when we talk about social enterprises, about educating people who are on the margins, because as is very rightly said by Mr. Anil Kumar Gupta, minds on the margins are not marginal minds. So there's a great potential at margins, but we have not taken full advantage of that potential as of yet. And when we talk about culture, the culture of India is also changing. We've come at a time where tech entrepreneurs are the new celebrities of this country. If I were to talk a couple of years down the road, if you happen to talk to Bhavish, he's the founder of Ola. The person came out of IIT Bombay. He started a venture called Ola Trip, which used to sell out weekend trips. That didn't work, so he started Ola Cabs. And his father at that time told him, "Beta, tu to IIT Bombay se nikal ke travel agent ban gaya." So that cultural shift is now happening where parents are promoting their kids to go and become entrepreneurs, where parents are promoting their kids to go and solve problems. And we should fully leverage that curve, that shift that is happening. Given that everyone sitting on this panel has more experience than my age, the Indian high school perspective in my mind is still very fresh, and I would like to talk about it. For Indian high schoolers, we have these schemes called the Inspire scheme, the recently launched Atal Innovation Mission, the Intel Iris Awards, and the Google Science Fair. And great innovations come out of these science fairs and innovation programs. Innovations ranging all the way from a simple water purifying system, going all the way to the top to solutions that can help cure Parkinson's disease. But we have not yet leveraged this innovation. I can understand that people at young age cannot implement this information and the innovations, but we should publicly list these innovations so for the people interested in making these solutions can actually find the key targets, find the people who actually took it to a research level and carry that forward. And when I talk about carrying these innovations forward, we've recently set up the tinkering labs in a lot of schools, and tinkering labs provide students with resources all around India wherein they can actually build innovations. Tinkering labs are equipped with microcontrollers, 3D printers, and laser cutters. We should keep a tap on the projects that come out of the tinkering labs so that we can take them to the next level and help those kids also become part of the active startup ecosystem that we have in the country. And talking about the tinkering labs and talking about the cultural shift that has happened on the Ola founder being a travel agent to now being a tech superstar and the owner of a big unicorn in India, we should also inculcate the tinkering labs in the curriculum. We've inculcated fashion designing and cooking classes and information practices in the curriculum, so it's about time that we give the students who are working and devoting extra time on this an incentive to actually innovate. And that would go a long way to help this. And one of the biggest reasons why innovations don't take off is the funding. India has not yet leveraged the concept of crowdfunding. We've not allowed the people who want to bring about the change invest in that change. And once we do that, we can see bigger changes happening because we're such a diverse and big population. And talking about crowdfunding, a friend of mine recently raised, his name is Deepak Ramola, he used to be an actor in the Bollywood soap industry. He raised a couple of lakhs to go all the way to Europe and America to record life lessons of Syrian refugees and people who face social discrimination. He came back to India, designed life lessons and experiments around that so he could teach those lessons to people. So two key observations from this particular case is crowdfunding can go in a long way in helping a certain innovation. And when we talk about innovation, we are essentially focusing on products. We forget to see that there are services, there are steps, and there are events we can do that can also bring about a social change. It doesn't always have to be an app. It doesn't always have to be a solution like a water purification system. It can be as simple as sharing the life lessons of people to bring about a social change. And as Mr. Khan mentioned in the beginning, that India is a very young country. The average age of an Indian is 26, and by 2020, the average age will be 28. And when you compare this to the average age of countries like China, Japan, Europe, and America, they're all way past 40. And given the digital infrastructure and the startup ecosystem we have, we're on the right track to bring about a positive change in this country, to make this country better than ever before. But that's not all. If we continue on this right path, we'll not only bring a positive change in this country, but we'll be path makers of change globally in the future. And let's all make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Harsha Dilbag. We have about 15 minutes now for the Q&A session. Ideally, we would like, if people could raise their hands and we could have them. Okay, the lady in the yellow, please. Thanks.
Hello.
If you, this, give it to her, please. Thanks. Please tell us who you are, your name, and the organization, or the country you come from.
I'm Seher Taneja. I'm a student, and I'm with the...
Keep the mic closer.
Okay, can you hear me now? Yep. Okay, I'm Seher Taneja. I'm a student, and I'm here with the National Indian Student Delegation from the UK. So thank you so much, sir. I would especially like to appreciate, Amitabh, sir, what you said about women in what's happening in the startup world. But before we move forward with anything, as an Indian woman, I would like to raise a concern about the panel today. Where are my women on the panel? Where are my role models? Thank you for that.
Hello. It's myself, Ashwin. Yes?
I catalyze women entrepreneurship, but I don't decide on the panels. One of the things the MEA has done is to have several women entrepreneurs who've put up their stalls in the exhibition hall. And I think you should have a look, but I honestly agree with the young lady. I totally agree with her that we should have had 50% women in the panel, and they would have done a much better job than men here.
Well, okay. Can I?
Your name and...
Hi. Myself, Ashwath Hegde. I'm CEO of Green Corporation, Qatar, and also I had started a startup called NV Green Biotech India Private Limited in Bangalore. Sir, we talked about problems and problem solvers, but I would like to request you to talk about problem makers in India. The reason is, in India, who are the problem makers? With due respects to the officers like Mr. Amitabh, real bureaucrats are the real problem makers in India. I have been facing this for a couple of months. We have already introduced an alternative and 100% biodegradable and organic alternative to plastic. But to get one certificate from Pollution Control Board, it took 6 months' time to educate them what is biopolymer, what is biodegradable, what is organic. Sir, yes, I know you have dismantled a lot of laws and everything, but I also request you to introduce some session and educating session to the people who are in Pollution Control Board about alternative and new innovations. Thank you so much.
This problem is faced by a lot of young people across several government organizations, and this is an issue of a lot of bureaucratic controls, rules, regulations, which we've put in over the last 65 years in India. And I totally accept your point that and that's why I started off by saying that India is a very complex, when I spoke, I said this, that India is a very complex, very difficult, and a very complicated place to do business in. But one of the key attempts of this government has been to make India extremely easy and simple. Now, and I gave you the example of 1,100 laws being done away with, how we are trying to make things easy and simple. I think the top layers of bureaucracy, there's been a great change in mindset. It'll take you can't do away with the legacy of 65 years in 1 year. It'll not be possible. But slowly and gradually, I think, because we've started ranking states now. Now, your problem must have been, is it with the State Pollution Control Board or the Central Pollution Control Board? Okay, so, some of these problems will take some of these change of mindsets will take a little time, and that's why one of the things we've done is as a part of Invest India, we've created a Startup India hub whose only job is and get onto the Startup India website. And I would suggest all of you to do this, Startup India website. There's a Startup India hub. We've created a team of 20-25 young people whose only job is to solve your problems with government officials.
Well, sir.
So please do that. Please do that, and I would request all of you to do that. And in case there's a specific problem where you're running into a major issue, I'm giving you my email ID. Please mail me. It's amitabh.kant@nic.in. I'll personally intervene wherever required.
Well, sir, I just want
I'll be very happy. What I'm suggesting to you is there will be problems. There will be problems. Some of them may be correct. Some of them may be wrong. But our job is to assist, to support, to facilitate, to act as catalyst to help all young entrepreneurs in India. Yes, and I'll personally be very happy to do this.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Do we see a question here?
Yeah, I have 3 observations to make. My name is Kapil Khandelwal. I run a hedge fund on New York Stock Exchange called Equinef K1D Capital. Started Bangalore Angels, angel investment group out of here. I was part of the ignition grant policy in the previous government. I have 3 observations to make. First, we talk about big money here, the 10,000 crore and whatnot. We could not even, implement the 500 crore ignition grant policy. So we need to have capacity building of mentors, which we lack. We may create a lot of funds, but we need a whole infrastructure to create mentors to guide these startups where you are going to invest this money. And we talked about leverage and whatnot, 50,000 crore. I don't think we have the capacity to even create even 5,000 mentors in this country to guide these startups. So that is one big issue that I challenge. The second thing was the draconian startup tax, which the previous government put, and we had to fight it out for almost 3 or 4 budget sessions to finally get it changed. So I don't see, on one hand we talk about, doing startups, and on the other hand, we investors' money get taxed at the startup. There's a big leakage. And where is that money going back? So that is the second point that I want to like to make. And the third point that I'd like to make is, Bangalore and Silicon Valley, a lot of angels and startups and funds have already kind of reached out. Can the Ministry of External Affairs, like the other, countries who work over here on startups, actually have a startup attaché in their, consulates who can actually reach out to the Indians, and we can then actually create angel investment groups and work on startups and creating a startup ecosystem across. So we don't know who in Bahrain. I used to be living in Bahrain. I would reach out and reach out to some of my friends, and we'll aggregate and make it happen. But can the ministry actually take an initiative like this and make it happen? So these are my 3 points I just want to like to make.
So, some of the points you've made, my suggestion to you is please have a look at the Startup Action Plan, which was announced about a year back. It looks at the complete ecosystem. I think many of the points that you've made are pretty outdated. So have a look at it. It looks at the entire ecosystem. Fund of funds is just one component of it. There's a whole issue of compliance regime based on self-certification. All labor laws, all environmental laws have been done away with. There's no tax on startup for the first 3 years, and out of the 5 years, you can choose any 3 years. So there's a complete legal support and fast-tracking for patent examiners. Of patent examination, they've been given a fast queue. Legal support for that has been given totally free by the government. There's a relaxed norm for public procurement. And I think more important than that, there's a complete system of a faster exit. A complete bankruptcy law was brought in only for this, so that Indians learn to accept failures in life. So I think there's a tax exemption on capital gains side, which has been given. So many of these points that you've made are not correct today. So I would suggest go back, have a look at the Startup Action Plan. It's very easy to just criticize. But I think in the new ecosystem, a lot of things have been done. And that is why the whole intention and the objective is that we should handhold startups, make them grow, make them expand, and create an ecosystem where we create job creators. Please have a look at this.
On the mentoring,
and my suggestion is that just don't start criticizing everything. If you have positive suggestions, please give them to me. We'll make them happen. We are here to make things happen.
On the mentoring,
please don't bring despondency in this country again. We want this country to move. We want this country to grow. We'll be very happy to act on positive suggestions. Any positive suggestions, my mail ID is amitabh.kant@nic.in. I'm doing crowdsourcing for positive ideas. Please mail me positive ideas. We'll act on them.
On the mentoring front, let me add that there are 2 windows in this country where investment is given even at the idea stage, not even at the proof of concept. One is BIREC. I was responsible for writing the cabinet note for that. Biotechnology, Industry, Research, Assistance Council, BIREC, by Department of Biotechnology. It invests in the ideas of young people, students, PhD students, postdoc, at the idea stage in biotechnology, medical devices. Second is, of course, National Innovation Foundation, which does the same thing. So therefore, you must know, and they have found mentors for each one of them. We have also a partnership with BIREC in Srishti, where we give 15 lakh rupees to 15 students, undergraduate, postgraduate students, 15 lakh each, on their ideas which they have found proof of concept. So things are improving. There is a huge network of mentors in our institutions which are willing to, who are extending. We filed 800 patents. Our average cost of patent was 15,000 rupees because no patent firm charged its fees from us for young innovators. So there are a lot of things happening in this country which is very promising, which is very hopeful, and people are paying, not charging money. You know, we are talking about mentors. People are not charging their commercial fees for helping the innovations.
We just have time for one more question, please.
Sorry.
Somebody on this side. Yeah, please, thanks.
Namaste, sorry.
My name is Praveen Kumar. I'm from Germany. I'm co-founding a company in Bangalore with the BMTC department. I have talked with the commissioner and the assistant commissioner of the BMTC to make a startup along with the 41 engineers in Bangalore only. We need actually a mentors as well as anybody who wants to found with me, and anybody anybody interested all are welcome. And actually we are planning to make around excuse me.
To talk to me after the meeting. I will be very happy to help you. I teach at IIM Ahmedabad.
We are making.
I will connect you to the professors here.
Most gladly. Most gladly. $5,900 per day, and for a month it's around $1,77,000, and for year it's around $21,24,000. Actually, we are tied up with some BMTC officials to make this contract happen. And anybody interested, please contact me. I'll be here only. Please contact me. Anybody mentors? We need only mentors. Actually, we don't want any founders. We are already having founders from Germany, and even I am also co-founding for this. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you are the best marketing guy I've seen.
Please sit down. I think we need to conclude. We have the next session starting up. I would like to have Mr. Amitabh Kant, close this session with his final words. If you have a question, please meet us after this. We'll have this closing session. We have another panel coming up. Please, let's respect the time over here. In just about a minute, we close this session. Thanks.
So we've had a very fascinating panel here, full of some very unique people here. I think Mr. Anil Gupta talked about grand challenges. He talked about Gandhiji having done the first great grand challenge. He's talked about growth being distributed. He's himself done some great work on grassroots innovation, so it was unique. He also talked about problem solving and incubation, etc. And I think Venk, of course, is a man from Silicon Valley. He's headed TIE there. And he was absolutely bang on that Silicon Valley doesn't have problems. We have many problems, but we need many more innovators. We need to create the right ecosystem for that. And I think we need to throw out many, many grand challenges so that we can get some of the best innovators in India. I found Dr. Prashad Kappa's presentation very fascinating. He talked about billion ideas, very meaningful concepts. He raised a number of, he talked about scaling up innovations, prototyping, marketing them. So he's a person who spoke with a lot of experience. He talked about the great example of Akshay Patra. Though I didn't agree with his views on NGOs, there are a lot of NGOs who are doing some amazing work in India, and all of us need to work in partnership with them. Some great work is happening in India in the field of NGOs, but his presentation was brilliant. Nevertheless, I think Mr. Naveen Jha, great work being done at the grassroots level in Hubli by him. So he's also a recipient of the International Ford Foundation Fellowship. He gave this example of this great kitchen of 200,000 meal. I didn't know about this. My compliments to you. He's a person who's created an entrepreneurship ecosystem at the grassroots level. It's a great example of social innovation. And then we had Professor Jagdish Mudera who's a professor in USA, who gave us this example of several examples of being bold at the school level. of causing disruption at the school level, and probably we'll use all his knowledge and expertise in the Atal Innovation Mission that we are doing. And thank you, Professor, for those great words of wisdom about how to bring in greater disruption at a younger age. And then we had Arsh Shah, who spoke of social entrepreneurship and how we are not leveraging the concept of crowdfunding, and how it's important to drive innovation in services. And I think his was also a very innovative presentation. He's a man who's done some great work. He's been a brand ambassador of India's STEM Foundation, which is an NGO and has promoted STEM education through robotics and competitions like World Robot Olympiad. So his was again a very fascinating presentation. I would merely like to conclude by saying that we in India have seen a huge energy. And let me tell you this, that the energy is unbelievable in India as far as the startup movement is concerned. It's a country of tremendous energy. It's got a huge vibrancy. It's the kind of dynamism which you don't see in Silicon Valley. You can ask Venk, and when you go to Silicon Valley, he'll tell you India is actually more vibrant, more dynamic as far as startups are concerned than what Silicon Valley is. We, of course, need to do greater scale-ups. We need greater level of financing. We need to do far greater level of mentoring. And I think we've tried to provide that ecosystem through the Startup Action Plan. But definitely what India needs is great mentors. And I think all of us will act as mentors to any young startup here who's concerned. And if you have any problems, as I said, you will face many problems. There's no startup in the world which doesn't face a problem, including USA. There are always problems, there are always issues of financing, of mentoring, vast range of bureaucratic problems, so on. So we are all here to solve your problem. In case you run into a problem, get in touch with Startup India Hub, get on to Startup India website. That's Startup India Hub is only meant to solve your problems. I want to make you people aware, get on to Startup India Hub on the Startup India website. They are meant to solve your problem. But any problem which is intractable, where you think a policy decision is required, get back to me. I'm always available to you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. And I think...
thank all my panelists for this very scintillating discussion.
Thank you so much, sir. I think we have, just about a minute to kind of felicitate all of you.
Our gratitude to the chair, Mr. Amitabh Kant, and indeed to all our distinguished panelists for such a spirited and interesting session this afternoon. Finally, to conclude, we'd like to felicitate the chair of the session, Mr. Amitabh Kant, to do the honors, Mr. Nagaraj Naidu. And then felicitations for all our very esteemed panelists. Let's have a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Do keep up the applause. They gave some splendid presentations. Our next session will begin very shortly in just a couple of minutes, as soon as the stage is cleared and the table is set. But before that, these wonderful moments recorded for posterity. Ladies and gentlemen, our next session, the final plenary session for today, is fueling growth through disruptive innovation.